28, 2025, and I'd like to welcome everyone in the room and those who are participating online as I call to order this meeting of the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Board of Education for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. We value everyone's input and have made sure to dedicate a portion of this meeting to hear from you. If you missed it, there's a sign-in sheet right up there near the front door if you'd like to sign in tonight for anyone who's wishing to speak, and we look forward to your comments during that time as it's indicated on our agenda. Mr. Godham, please call the roll.
Mrs. Anderson,
Here.
Mrs. Dawn,
Here.
Mr. Kinsey,
Present.
Mr. Price, Dr. Pryor.
Present.
4 present, 1 absent.
All right, we have a quorum. If you're able, will you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
My first item is a request for approval for a then and now certificate for Reek Mechanical in the amount of $6,890.10.
So moved. Second.
I heard Mrs. Anderson, then Mrs. Dorn.
We just didn't have a purchase order. The purchase order was actually short. The invoice came in a bit higher, and that's why we're requesting this then and now certificate for this.
Sounds good.
Any questions? All right, please call the roll.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dawn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Dr. Pryor.
Yes.
4 yeses. My second request is for approval of an advance to 3 grant funds.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Dorn, then Mrs. Anderson.
This year the federal grants are late, so we don't have budgets in. We did not have budgets in, so we'll run a deficit. And by law, we cannot have negative fund balance. So we're advancing money from the general fund, and next month when we get money back from the state ODEW for these federal grants, we'll return the money to general fund at that time.
Okay, please call the vote.
Mrs. Dawn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Dr. Pryor,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
4 yeses. My last request is for approval of amendment to permanent appropriations. There are 2 big things in it. One, $16 million, that is for the bond retirement fund. We are refinancing our debt, and basically this is just bringing in, it's like refinancing our mortgage. We'll be bringing in debt to pay off the older debt. So this $16 million will pay off the older debt, and then we're bringing in $14 million in new debt. It will give us $636,000 in savings for the taxpayers. So taxpayers over the next 6 years will save $636,000 on their tax bills.
Great. Awesome. Nice work.
Thank you.
Good job.
Did we get a first and second on that one yet?
No.
I didn't write anything down. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
All right, moved by Mrs. Dorn, seconded by Mrs. Anderson. Yeah, that's fantastic. Everybody's talking about property tax relief right now. To be able to do that and keep the absolute same awesome services at the same time, thank you for working on that. Please thank your team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Dr. Pryor,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dawn.
Yes.
5 yeses.
Anything else, sir?
That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move into correspondence. Does any board member have anything that they'd like to share, especially maybe something not all of us have seen?
I got a message from Councilman Forrest Greenwood. He was talking about wondering how the new bus stop downtown, if the families affected are getting a notification that they can ride the bus. He said a lot of parents still don't know about it, so I wasn't sure if that's in Stop Finder or if we sent out an email about that, or how they would go about being notified about that. Or if you don't know, say
I do
you're
not
good.
know
Okay.
whether they were notified or not. I know there
Okay.
are, I thought Mrs. Smith was personally notifying those people that
Okay.
were down there.
Okay.
Because there was maybe 16 people or 16 families that were impacted.
Okay.
I can double check to make sure that those folks that
If
are
they log
downtown-
into Stop Finder and they're eligible, would it be on there?
I don't
You
know
know,
if it would be
maybe,
on Stop
possibly.
Finder.
I know,
For
it's.
final
it's-
forms,
It's
maybe.
probably-
Final forms.
It's
Maybe
final
final
forms, you have to
forms.
elect whether you're going to
Okay.
need busing,
Right.
and so.
Right. I can
Yeah.
check with Mrs. Smith and
Okay.
make sure that those people that are,
Yeah,
those
he
folks
just sent me a
downtown
message,
are-
so I was just passing it on.
Yeah, we added a couple stops down there. We moved our ineligibility zone a little further towards the school, so those folks downtown
Correct.
were able to
Which is
to
very
catch
much
the bus.
appreciated.
Yeah.
They just weren't sure how we notify people about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive they were all notified.
Okay,
But I will double check with
Okay.
Mrs. Smith. Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, we will move into our reports to the board. Up first, always great to see Adam Romali, our district representative to the Greene County Career Center.
Just a quick report from the Greene County Career Center. On the 11th of August, school opened, and all the cell phones are in pouches. So that's been one of the big, continuing that change from last year, and it's been, well received by the parents. The kids, I think, are receiving it, and it's working fine. So we did welcome 998 students, which is big. There's 528 juniors, 470 seniors. And so, the school was built, 3 or 4 years ago. We're already really almost at capacity, so that we did purchase 10 acres of land across the road from the school, and then we're looking to, other opportunities to expand because we think there's going to be a demand. So expect the Greene County Career Center. I'm not saying it's anytime this year, but there will be, expansion ideas are in works, and they're evaluating exactly what kind of facilities and things like that, but it is growing. There are 36 Bellbrook juniors there, as well as 34 seniors. One of the seniors is on work placement, so they're getting credit while also receiving job experience and pay as well, so that's working out real well. And one of the Bellbrook seniors will be highlighted as during the recruiting video for next year's class. So Bellbrook's well represented. From a classes standpoint, some of the more popular classes: robotics, aviation maintenance, digital design, and the sports sciences. And then finally, I will be applying again for another 4-year term. I've got to get the application in, but I will get the application in. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions or any concerns that anybody you may have. All right.
Thank you
No.
for
Yeah.
serving
Thank
the
you.
capacity
No.
and for agreeing to do it for 4 more years.
No, thank you. I enjoy it. Thank you very much. It's a privilege and an honor, and I will continue to do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, up next, we would like to welcome up Mr. Klein, our middle school principal. This second meeting of the month is usually pretty light, so it's always awesome that we get to hear just the great things that are going on in one of our buildings. So looking forward to your presentation.
All right, first of all, thank you very much. So as a new administrator in the district, new administrator at this building, it's been awesome. It's been an unbelievable year. Thank you very much for your leadership. Thank you, fellow administrators, for any time I call about a question, reach out for whatever reason, you guys are always there to help. Our staff and students are amazing, and as soon as I was tasked to do this, I knew exactly what we needed to do, and that's to showcase our staff, to showcase how our kids are not just doing middle school successfully as they all are, but they're also helping each other. So tonight's theme is kids helping kids. So we've got 4 programs, and there are many more that we could highlight, but we chose 4 because I'm trying to keep this under 10 to 12 minutes. So we're talking about our peer tutoring program, our 8th grade mentor program, our Hope Squad, and NJHS. And so these are all, it's a sliver or a tip of the iceberg of some of the great things that are happening at Bellbrook Middle School. So first up, we're going to talk about our peer tutoring program.
Okay. You're ready. All right, I have brought two of my former peer tutors who you will hear from. What? Oh, yeah. Hi. I'm Lindsay Allen. I am a middle school 8th grade teacher. And then 2 years ago, I took over the peer tutor program. I have to give a shout out to my mom. My mom, Jeannie Johnson, actually was the one that started the peer tutor program. So it's kind of funny in Kinsit that 10 years later, now I'm in charge of it. So, but essentially what it is during our Eagle time, I have an Eagle, but my Eagle are all tutors. And then those tutors I assign, and we run this whole entire other class where we are bringing in students assigned by themselves, or other teachers can assign them into the peer tutor room if they need extra help, extra support, they need to study, they need to do a retake, so they have to prep for that. And then they walk into the peer tutor room, and then I have them assigned with a tutor. I call them tutors and tuties. I know that's kind of weird, but that's what we call them. But not only that, they don't only help out the students that come in there, but at the middle school, I think we do a really good job of supporting the tiered levels. So we have our students that are tier 3, and they're in with their ISs at Eagle, and then I send 2 or 3 peer tutors over there to help them. Tier 2, we have an intervention room, which is about 10 kids, and they get one-on-one with the tutor, and our counselors and teachers come together and help just keep them caught up and keep them above water when they're drowning a little bit. And then the tier 1 are the ones that come to us during Eagle. So it's just a really good opportunity, and like from my seat, when I sit back and I see 15 of my students helping 15 other students, it's like really amazing. So I don't want to talk about it because it's them that do it, truthfully. I'm the organizer. So I brought 2 of my students, Savannah Krumnauer, so she's going to talk first. She spent most of her time in the intervention room, so she's just going to give you a little example.
Yeah. So one of the main students I worked with was at the beginning of my 8th grade year. She had English as a second language. Spanish was her main language. She would take notes in Spanish a lot of the time, and it was really hard for her to keep up because of the language barrier. We would, at the beginning, we would have a hard time like understanding each other, and it was hard for her to find her footing, but eventually we were able to get her out of the intervention room, and now she's doing really well at VHS.
Liam was mostly in the peer tutor room with me, and he was one of intervention room a little bit, and also one of the best tutors. So go for it, Liam.
So when I first met my kid that I had for not the entire year, but for a little while of the year, he was pretty discouraged. He'd been in the peer tutor room in and out since about 6th grade, and he just was not really having the mentality that he could, get out of it and start doing well as a student academically. So when we first kind of got together and I started working, he was like, I don't really know how to do any of this. Like, I probably just am not going to do well. Like, I just want to warn you that. And I was kind of taken aback because I'd always kind of tried to keep up the mentality of even if, like, you're not doing well at the moment, you can always, like, fix that and move forward. So over time, I was really trying to show him, like, try to get him to kind of feel the same way as me. And I think it started working probably around halfway through the first quarter. I mean, he was listening to me. If I explained something to him that he missed in class, he would take it down, he would take notes, and he was just really showing a sign of wanting to learn, which I think is really good. And I really believe that kind of can be in all of students at BHS and BMS. So by the first quarter, he had gotten more like from like D grades up to C's and B's. And I was very impressed. I was really happy for him. And he was happy too because, these are some of the highest grades that he's ever been getting. And he was just really happy that he was starting to show signs of progress. And I kind of think that was around when he started to believe himself. So the second quarter rolls by, and by the end of winter break, or 1 week away, he asked our teacher, so this was in the intervention room at that point in time, he asked the counselor there, and he said, how much longer do you think I have in here? Because he was starting to show signs of progress, and he was just getting excited since, he wanted to be out there. Like, he didn't want to have to spend his equal time, like, being taught stuff. He wanted to spend it on work that he could do. So she said, and it was really happy for both me and him, she said, you have about, if you can get all A's, or not all A's, all B's by winter break, you can be out. And that, I think, just was the final push that he needed, and he was able to get all B's, and he has not been back in, and he's just really doing well as a student now.
Thank you very much. And so this peer tutoring program is incredible. My wife was part of that when she was here, and my youngest just signed up for that. He's a 6th grader. So Oliver's Oliver came home, he's like, we're talking about this peer tutoring, right, to go help other people, and I get to, it's pretty neat. And so that peer tutoring program is pretty awesome. So Mr. Killen's going to talk about our 8th grade mentor program.
Thank you, sir. I'm Scott Killen. I'm the assistant principal here at the middle school. And I'm super excited that Mr. Klein and I kind of put our heads together in the summer to come up with this mentor program. For the past 2 years, we have had the 5th graders, after testing over at BCI, come and visit the middle school. The kids give a tour, they answer questions, and it's really about a 45-minute just quick tour, like here it is, and then they don't have anything with the middle school until orientation. So Mr. Klein and I were talking, let's do something more. So we're going to do a mentorship program with the NJHS kids first, and right now they're in the process of getting all their groups together, and if we run out of kids, we're going to go reach out to other 8th graders who would be interested in participating in this. And the goal is, one, to ease the transition, not just beginning of the year, but throughout the entire school year, to just kind of be there as a role model, to build confidence, not only academically, but also socially, because let's be honest, middle school is kind of like a huge social experiment. Like, where do I fit in? I'm getting new friends. There's people that I have never really talked to, but they're kind of cool to talk to. I want to engage in that. And so what we're doing is putting them in situations with older kids to build the confidence, not only academically, but socially, to make it, to be comfortable walking through the hallways, to ask questions. So the goal is right now to have 3 mentors per Eagle. So we're looking at about 27 students to go in and break each Eagle down into 3 groups, small groups, where they can have a small setting to ask questions. Basically, how to middle school. You know, what does the lunch line look like? How do I use the e-hall pass? And then as we get through those barriers, just setting up like conversations to kind of teach them how to handle different social settings in the middle school. And then we can get to team building and talk about how to, like, what is CUC? What is, you know, when I go to CUC, what do I do there? You know, where do I go for retakes? Oh, I can take retakes in the morning and afternoon. Some kids come to me and they have no idea. So if we give them mentors that can answer those questions early, I think that would be really good for the kids, because kids will talk to kids sooner than they'll talk to adults sometimes. So why not just give them those toolboxes, or the tools to put in their toolbox to, you know, to grow as a student. And hopefully as we go, you see a positive relationship from the older kids, the leaders of the school, to the 6th graders, and then hopefully foster the love to lead, where the 7th graders can't wait to be 8th graders, and the 6th graders can't wait to their 8th graders to do the same thing and kind of give back. So that's the goal with the mentor program, and like I said, we're super excited to get this started. Hopefully it's up and running the next week or 2. So, all right, thank you.
So Scott's really got a whole full year planned where they're coming in at different times, and they're going to talk about different things. It's pretty impressive what he's come up with. So thank you very much. So we've got our Hope Squad coming up next.
My name is Ben Trick. I'm an 8th grade social studies teacher and Hope Squad advisor, and with me is Ann Gall. She's what?
6th and 7th grade health.
There we go. 6th and 7th grade health. I should know that.
I've only been here 27 years.
Yeah, I know. Well, me 20, so, you know, give me a little bit. So Hope Squad, it's a program that we had around for 5 years now here at the middle school. And really what we do during Eagle Time twice a month, we bring students in who are student selected. So it's a peer selected program. And we go through the Hope Squad program and we try to teach them, you know, how to help their peers who may be struggling with their mental health, and then things to look out for if there could be a peer who could be considering taking their own life, and ways that we can intervene before they actually go through that decision that cannot be reversed.
Yeah, we were trained a few years ago in QPR, which is question, persuade, refer, for these students, and we teach them the signs to look for. So we're trying to help them with their mental health, understand their feelings, and then also reach out to other students. Last year we had, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 referrals to us, where students hear of another student who is struggling, they come to us, they get the support, and then if it's something that we need, we send it off to the counselors. But it's a way for the kids to kind of reach out towards each other, and just kind of keep an eye on one another, because as somebody said, they'll talk to kids before they'll talk to adults. So we're just teaching our students to be on the lookout for anybody who might be struggling a little bit. This year, we're trying to do a little bit more fundraising so that we can do a little bit more with not just our advisors, but reach out and kind of interact with just the student body a little bit more, a little proactively, so that maybe we can get those kiddos just feeling good and understanding what the Hope Squad is about before they need it, kind of thing. That's about it. Thank you.
All right, our last group coming up, or our last person is going to talk about NJHS.
Hello, I'm Kyle Ferguson, 8th grade math teacher. Myself and Amy Crane are the advisors of National Junior Honor Society. So if you think National Honor Society, it's that, smaller people. It's more so just to give them a taste of maybe something they want to pursue at the high school. So when the students are end of their 7th grade year, they will submit an application showing us, selling themselves as far as why they should be accepted into NJHS here at the middle school. So they got to show evidence of how they are meeting the 5 pillars, those 5 pillars of service, leadership, scholarship, service, leadership, character, and citizenship. So on those applications, it is pretty funny to see, leadership. Well, they can't drive. They may not be involved in a sport. They will put the strangest things as to what they view as leadership. So we don't, put a lot of weight on that one, but, I changed my baby brother's diaper. Hey, take an initiative, right? So they'll apply. A committee of teachers and administration will sit down. We'll go through all the applications. We keep it very objective. It's a point system. Turning in the application is probably the easiest thing for them to do, and completing all parts. We don't really make it that, scary, although some of them will write books. We just want them to have a taste and see what NJHS is here at the middle school. So they'll do that. 8th grade years where they're doing more of the serving. We will meet bi-weekly with them during their Eagle period. Our first meeting's coming up next week, now that school's kind of running itself, where we will help them, decide what committees they would like in their school. So we give them the freedom to say, you know what, we're 8th graders now, this is what we would like. We kind of give them the committees that have always been rolling through the years past. They choose what committees they want to be on. We let committee heads be selected that will take charge, just an opportunity for that leadership within their subcommittees. But the committees are random. They have different purposes. Last year we had the Spirit Committee and a Sports Committee, which pretty much just joined up to be one committee where they would just raise school spirit. Not all of these kids are into sports, so we didn't want it just to be sports heavy, but other ways to get school spirit, whether it be in the assemblies, coming up with the games that Mrs. Schwederman does. The Sports Committee, trying to just hype up some of those bigger contests, when we play Oakwood, or just getting middle schoolers to the student sections that they may not be familiar with happens over at the high school football games. Just to start building that, because as they go to the high school, they're going to see that happening over there and can contribute to that. Other committees, we have the Positivity Committee, which I believe continues at the high school, just leaving encouraging notes on student lockers. The School Decorating Committee, keeping the display cases in our ellipse changed and new so they're not collecting too much dust as the year goes on. And then fundraising committees. Last year we had the fundraising committee hold 3 bake sales in the fall, winter, and then one in the spring to finish things out. And they raised over $800 just on bake sales. We've got kids who love to bake and cook, and they took it and ran with it. They set up their shop and they collected that money, and we raised a lot of money, so they were able to use those funds to help bring in some other things for our last day of events. We brought in, well, we were going to bring in a dunk tank, but it was too cold, and we said, scratch that. No teacher wants to get in that dunk tank. We were able to get some bigger bounce houses just to add some different kind of flair, because these 8th graders have been doing the same thing since 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. We let them have some say in to some of those different things that we could do there. It just allows every student that in NJHS to contribute to their school culture. And it's not just contained within that group of kids. This year we have about 50 kids, but we want them to take it out to the rest of the building, the mentoring program being one obvious way that we can do that. A little ambitious with a potential project for the group this year. Mr. Klein brought it to our attention that maybe we could organize and map out a 2-mile middle school cross-country course on our property. Although the kids love the woods, this would not be, where we have our meets, but just something maybe for those kids that are in cross-country to say, hey, we got our hands on this. The Frisbee golf course sign is old, so maybe revamping that, putting some of our artistic kids to work and seeing what they can generate. So yeah, it's an opportunity for the kids to just get involved in maybe a little bit different way. Obviously they don't, and they always ask, does this mean I'm automatically an NHS at the high school? No, this is not a prerequisite. This is not a requirement, but it is a taste of what the application process looks like. How to start getting those leadership hours, community service hours, because they do have to get 2 hours of community service per quarter here, get that documented. So they're getting a taste of what that looks like. And these are the kids that are going to be the leaders over there at BHS and hopefully go on to lead in their communities. So yeah, it's an awesome opportunity to be able to help them do that.
Thank you. All right, so none of that happens by accident. It starts at home. It starts with the parents and the guardians and all the things you've taught them over the years, but it continues at school, and the staff intentionally pushes that on kids to help other kids and to be a positive leader. And through the PBIS program, when you help a kid out for something, you get the SOAR card. And it's a continual thing. It's just part of the culture here at this school, and it's awesome to come to work. I'll be honest with you, it's awesome to come to work every single day because of the staff, because of the students, because of the culture, because of the things that have been established over a series of years. So Kids Helping Kids builds empathy and leadership, creates a culture of support, and helps every student feel valued and connected. And you can read about this and many other wonderful things about the middle school in our latest publication of Middle School Monthly. And there's one on all the board members' desks. And I'm setting that out actually tomorrow in Parent Square. So there that is. Thank you all very much.
Thanks to the middle school. Nothing like being the new principal on the block and you're first up when we do these presentations. So thank you, Mr. Klein. And not only building on the programs that are already here, but exploring some new ones. So a lot of service opportunities, great stuff going on in the middle school. Thank you.
We are going to move into committee reports, but I do always want to say, in case there's anybody that was here to watch that, we totally understand there's not going to be any hard feelings if you want to take off and enjoy the rest of your evening. But we will move into our committee reports. I'm up first. So OSBA legislative liaison, I actually don't have much right now. So let's move down to Mrs. Anderson for the Capital Conference and Student Achievement.
Yep. All right, so Capital Conference is November 16, 17, 18 in Columbus. The OSBA Student Achievement Fair will be November 17th from 10 to 2. I know the past 2 years we've had excellent representation. The first year was Supportive Peers, and then we did the drone team last year. So if any of your principals have recommendations for groups that would like to go, nominations are due October 24th. So if anybody wants to do it, let Dr. Kozad know, and he'll get that information to me. The deadline for art, featured art presentations is October 24th as well. So if the art teachers have anybody that's outstanding that we would like to feature, I can take those as well. As far as student achievement, the OSBA sent out an article, and I hope this is the last time I have to say this word from this table, but pandemic babies started kindergarten this year. So They are just sending out just to be aware of maybe some social delays as well as language delays due to the masking and lockdowns. They're going to start collecting data on that, so we'll see that coming. But yes, the pandemic started kindergarten, so that's it.
All right, thank you very much. How about Dr. Pryor, anything from BSCF?
Yes, so the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Education Foundation, we had a school garage sale that was June 14th, where all the stuff collecting dust and crammed into closets and hogging rooms that we didn't need anymore, we sold, like old desks and things and games and whatnot that teachers didn't want anymore. And it raised about $2,500 that is being used by the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Education Foundation for teacher grants. So any of our teachers can apply for a grant for to the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Education Foundation for things that you want for your class that just aren't in the normal school budget. Like last year, the drone team needed some new timing equipment, and I think a previous year, the first grade teachers wanted chicken incubators to incubate chicken eggs, and after they assured us they had something to do with the chickens after we funded that grant, so that's really fun. So our goal is to fund all the teacher grants that apply. And so we're going to do this garage sale again next year, so Saturday morning, June 13th, 2026, there'll be another garage sale. We're also having a color run that day, so a 5K. Though everybody wears white and it's family friendly, and at various points during the run you get thrown colored powder on you. So there's awards for whoever's the most colorful at the end and the fastest. And so that'll be going on at the same time as the garage sale on June 13th. So everyone can put that on your calendar. And of course, all the money goes to the BSEF, which we use for teacher grants. So if any teacher has something they would like for a grant, contact Jeff Eckley because he knows exactly how to apply for that. That's all.
Thank you very much. Good stuff. Next, Mr. Price could not be with us tonight, but I don't know if he had anything from the Financial Advisory or Safety Committee.
I think we're meeting with Financial Advisory next few months here, hopefully, right, Mr. Gotham?
Yep.
We need to be
Should be
meeting there. Safety Committee, again, I think we're meeting in October, November. I know one piece that always comes up is, or came up is traffic, and so again, we've added, over the years, crosswalks or advocated for those across streets, and so the 3 lanes at BCI of trying to get all that traffic and cars off of the street, because again, that can be a big hazard out there. That's something we've worked on, and it's going really well with getting all the cars off of the road over at BCI during dismissal and pickup, dismissal and drop-off.
Very good. That's it. Yep. All right, cool. And last on our list is me, a report from our Active Shooter Response Team Implementation Committee. Everything's going extremely well. We had a new batch of volunteers serving in that role that we approved in the spring sometime. I can report back that all of them, each and every one, passed with flying colors, the rigorous training, the mental health background check, all the things that they have to do. So I think that was our 3rd or 4th list of individuals. As people are thinking about it, if you have any questions, anything you want to know, I'm sure Dr. Kozad will be happy to talk to you, but we just really appreciate those people stepping up in that very important volunteer role. All right, anybody have anything else on committee reports they want to share? All right, so at this time, we're going to move into our open communication period. Your thoughts and comments are welcome during this time. There's a sign-in sheet up there by the door for anybody who wishes to speak. When you're given the floor, thank you very much, please give your name, your full address, and any group affiliation you hold if it's relevant. You'll then have 5 minutes for your comments, which should be directed toward the presiding officer, who tonight happens to be me. This time is typically for the board to listen and absorb, and as such, traditionally, a dialogue is not created in this moment. In case you're wondering, the reason for these policies, which can be read in their entirety on the district's website in policy number 169.91, is to ensure that as many people as possible have the opportunity to speak and that everyone is treated equally and fairly. So with that, I would like to welcome up Michael Froning. Thank you for being here, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Michael Froning. I live at 2457 Sherborne Way in Beaver Creek Township. I have information tonight to share with you regarding Sugar Creek Elementary Campus, which you're trying to divest.
Sir, could you speak up, please?
Speak up? Is that better? Yeah. Okay. So as a Greene County resident, I'm concerned how it could potentially affect both the taxpayer of Bellbrook-Sugarcreek schools as well as Greene County as a whole. The request that's in front of you now, I believe, is to put the ESC in charge or divest the single-story building down there to the ESC for use of the Academy Greene County, which is an alternative high school. In 2001, we, the board, solicited an evaluation of Sugar Creek Elementary by the Ohio School Facilities Commission. In 2003, they gave us a 47-page report and cited numerous building and systems deficiencies. They provided a detailed facility analysis and renovation cost estimate. Based upon that projected cost, the OSFC report recommended against doing any renovations. They said replace. Now, as we fast forward to today, in 2013, the OFSC, I should mention, merged with the Office of the Ohio State Architect to form the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. The OFSC, as did the OSFC, manages Ohio school facility programs, provides support for construction and renovation of public K-12 schools, sets uniform rules, procedures, and standardized documents for construction projects. And they provide a non-biased, this is very important, non-biased source of information for schools, building projects. On 18 August of this year, I contacted the OFCC by phone for a copy of that 2003 report. They had not been contacted by anybody from the ESC. They provided both the original report to me, plus they were kind enough to put together a computer model which updated the cost to today. The OFSC, or OFCC now, provides realistic, well-respected construction estimates. I have a chart here. I'm going to hand these out to you real quickly. So we're down back to chart 3, where I summarized the costs from the original estimate as well as the one today. And if you look at it, this was for 3 buildings they looked at. We always think there's 2. There was the 1925 3-story, the 1939 addition to that building, and then the 1957 single-story, which is what I'm talking about tonight. Back in 2003, it was $2.2 million to renovate that building to bring it up to then current standards. Bringing those costs to 2025, it would now be over $5.5 million. You can see why we elected to start moving away from there and never renovated that building like we did the others. Those deficiencies remain and building continues to deteriorate. Estimates are to repair just the building structure and replace major systems. They do not project additional costs to upgrade from the original grade school design to become a permanent ESC alternative high school. Repairs and upgrade costs are realistic regardless if done as a single renovation or spread over time. That cost, and my concern is, must be borne by the taxpayers of Greene County, either as a putting out a bond issue to build a new building or repair the building, or by allocating the cost back to the districts to keep it upgraded for the number of students you send. But somebody's going to pay for it, and that's the taxpayer. So the potential impact of this is I have concerns with the following. The project is currently poorly defined. I am aware of any published project scope or roadmap, no enrollment projections, no OFCC involvement to determine feasibility, facility requirements, and detailed cost estimates for an alternative high school. No project schedule, no long-term projected cost burden on local and county taxpayers, no proposed funding mechanism, no defined property parcel size required for current and future use, no communication of the latest request to adjoining property owners, and no indication of having explored alternatives. A couple that I would think they would need to look at possibly would be Yellow Springs at the board office or the old Greene County Career Center. My second objection here is this would complicate the overall campus redevelopment. You would remove a significant portion of the easier to redevelop street frontage. That would leave
Sorry,
behind.
sir, if you could finish your thought.
Okay.
We're out of time. Thank you.
All right, I'm on my, well, okay, I
I'll be
can
happy
do
to
that.
speak with you afterwards, or at a later date.
Can we, yeah,
To
yeah,
hear the rest of your thoughts. Thank you.
all right.
Thank you very much for this information. Very helpful. I think maybe Mrs. Dorr would be happy to follow up with you. That'd be,
Yeah, I think you probably don't want us to stay around later tonight and that we have an executive session. I think plans, we would be keeping you here pretty late, but I'll follow up with you perhaps after. If you want to send me an email, we can set up a time.
Sure. We really do appreciate the information. Next, I would like to welcome Sharon Hawks. Thank you for being here. If you give your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Yes, hi, my name is Sharon Hawks. I'm from Chagrin Falls. I'm a former public library director, currently with Right to Read Ohio, a statewide organization that raises awareness of libraries and librarians as vital to our communities. I understand you're interested in protecting parental rights, which is an important goal. It's laudable. I'm sure your librarians share your interest as they seek to find books and information that will help all members of your school community, both educators and students. I read that the library had been closed. I know it's open now, hooray. And I hope you understand that you all had given them an unfunded mandate on top of their other duties. Yes, their duties include purchasing, shelving, lending books for students. But I hope people understand that media specialists also coordinate with teachers, the curriculum, and state and federal standards. They teach skills, such as print and online research, critical thinking, how to cite sources, and how to avoid things like fake news and copyright issues such as plagiarism. They have master's degrees and teaching certification. Like your other teachers, they're creative and independent thinkers. I hope you'll see your way to work together on promoting quality materials to the student body. As I was looking through your policy, number 5780, I noticed that you're asking parents to opt in to allow high school students to see inherently private sexual acts and any gender ideology awards in content in books. I wonder if you realize that you may be opening the school district to legal liability. In 1982, the Supreme Court determined that students have the right to read, even if the books, in that case, were just plain filthy, but not legally obscene. In the year 2000, it was determined that moving books to limit access moving them to a special section was unconstitutional. In that case, actually, there were two things about gay parents. Heather Has Two Mommies is still infamous today. 3 years later, another court added that having to get special permission to access books was also a violation. So I'm wondering, are you planning on moving some high school books? Are you seeking special permission to see them? And what about the middle, intermediate, and elementary schools? Those schools did not have books with inherently private sexual content, such as it doesn't exist, but they may occasionally mention a transgender character. Are those books being removed for not complying? That is a book ban. When it comes to students' rights, the default is always to leave their rights alone unless exercising them will either substantially disrupt school activities, and that's illegal, or interfere with the rights of others. In this case, books on the shelf hurt only those whose family values don't allow for reading certain topics. Understood. Let those parents opt out instead of having all the rest of the school body have to opt in. Do you understand? So the default is to give rights, not the default is to take away. Let me leave you with this. There's a decade-long study, and it's called, Gail Ivey is the lead author, How Teens Benefit from Being Able to Read Disturbing Books That Some Want to Ban. Anyway, that decade-long study showed that teenagers who read disturbing books that many want banned actually improved. They improved in empathy. They improved in positive relationships with others. They improved in thoughtfulness. They improved in healing from trauma and overall happiness. Go figure. They even became more enthusiastic readers. Isn't that what we want from our teenagers? Your librarians can help you with that. Thank you, and I'm happy to communicate with you further on any of these issues or any questions you have. Thank you very much.
Up next, I would like to welcome Nora Scarborough.
Hi, my name is Nora Scarborough, and I live at 4086 Woodedge Drive. Hello, everyone. I'm a senior at Bellbrook High School, and the Bellbrook School libraries and every book in them have been a very active part of my life since the first grade. I believe the work that the library does changes kids' lives for the better. With that being said, the Parent Bill of Rights is something that concerns me deeply. The policy is set out to regulate students' access to books on certain topics by giving the parents full control over what the students can check out from the school's library. One of these topics is sexual content. Sexual content is defined in the policy as, quote, any oral or written instruction, books, materials, presentations, videos, images, or descriptions of any sort that indicate sexual concepts. The policy defines sexual concepts as inherently private sexual acts or sexual intercourse of any form. I believe that this definition is incredibly vague, especially for a definition that dictates what books librarians have to flag. The term inherently private or sexual acts is completely left up to the interpretation of the reader. Somebody can interpret that as something as small as hand-holding, or they can interpret it as something like intercourse. Because of this, it's unclear what librarians should actually have to flag, and it makes it so librarians have to conform to the most sensitive of parents. This policy also states that gender ideology as a reason for flagging a book. Gender ideology is defined in the policy as the concept that people can be of a gender or have gender identity that does not correspond with their biological sex. The play script, The Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare, talks about a biological man dressing as a woman within the first scene. This policy would limit kids' access to Shakespeare. That doesn't really sit right with me. I don't like that. This policy also states, the board will, and I quote, the board will ensure that any sexual content is age appropriate. But from what I've gathered and what I've seen, I haven't really seen the board give any direct effects on what books should be flagged. I haven't really seen examples or anything. Recently, I witnessed firsthand one of the main issues of this policy. That happened when a kid came into the library and couldn't check out The Odyssey by Homer. This was due to the parent not signing the kid's form yet. Not because the parent had an issue with that kid checking out The Odyssey, it was simply because they hadn't signed anything yet. In conclusion, I'm of the opinion that limiting education of any kind is terrifying. And this policy just made me more confident in my opinion. Thank you so much. Hope everybody has a lovely night.
It's awesome when students come and talk. I know how hard that can be to stand in front of the room. Great job. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Up next is Lizzie Visger. Apologies, did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
All right. Welcome. You have 5 minutes.
Hi. Hi, my name is Lizzie. I'm a senior at Bellbrook High School, and I'm here to talk about that Parent Bill of Rights policy and how it's personally been affecting me and many other of my fellow classmates in ways that I'm not too sure the board is aware of. I know that the library has been back open since Monday, and I am very happy about that. And there are some other things that I've noticed that have made me wonder if you guys know that like the effects of your policy and if they're in what you intended. To start off, one of my main things that I wanted to point out is that many of the things that you're specifically like targeting in this policy are things that your kids are talking about with or without the library. I've heard about these topics for years, and I'm going to be like, the library had nothing to do with them. And honestly, the library is a place where these things are vetted. They're age appropriate things. They're not putting bad things in libraries for kids. It's different than a public library. So seeing all this, like the library closed and all these things, it like concerns me because your kids do know about these things. And if you want them to have, like, if you want to be the one to introduce it to them, please just talk to them. I promise you, I knew about these. I know my kid. I know my friends are talking about these things. I know all of these people are talking about these things. So I really want you guys to please, if you're concerned about it, talk to your kids. My next big thing is the English. Like, this whole policy has really affected what the English teachers can provide to their students. I've seen a lot of teachers that have had to pull their personal collections from the library or have to turn it around because they don't have the time to go through their personal collections and determine like what follows this policy and what does not. It's honestly, it's disheartening just because I really love seeing kids being able to read. I'm one myself who loves to read. And all these teachers, they don't have time. They have a bunch of classes that they have to do. They have their planning periods where they do that, and they have families. They have lives outside of school. So them having to pull their personal collections because they're not sure if they have what goes against this policy has been really like disheartening for me to see. And then the last thing I really wanted to touch on was, sorry, I'm like trying to follow my what I had down, but not entirely. This has also caused a lot of my teachers not to be able to recommend books in the same way that they've used to. It is really sad to see because I like getting my recommendations from my book, like my personal recommendations from teachers who know what I like, know what I want to read, and who know more than I do about books. They read their English teachers. So being able to like not be able to see them give me recommendations or give students recommendations in general because they're worried that it might violate this policy is kind of sad for me it's really all just kind of sad. It's kind of negatively affected me and how I see the school board personally in this moment. So I urge you all to reconsider possibly like the wording or how this policy might enter into effect before it gets like we start being farther into this. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Up next is Greta Schumacher.
Hi everyone. This time I came prepared. Thank you again. My name is Greta Schumacher. I have 2 kids, one at the high school and one here in the middle school. And I wanted to talk about the books again, because what I have in my hand here is the book my son came home with on Monday, and he said, "Mom, look, the library is open." So thank you to the board for listening to us last time for opening the library.
I'm so sorry, what grade is your son in again? I'm sorry?
6th.
6th grade.
Yes. And then I was like, okay, what? He loves architecture. He has a lot of books at home, but none like these. And then I'm like, okay, well, does this book have any sexual content in it? Is there a statue of a guy that's naked in old Rome? Probably. But why do we need to censor books? First of all, it's important for kids to have access. And I'm going to bring up the word that kind of got, nowadays, it's kind of villainized. It's DEI, right? You need to get access to books for every child. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter what they have at home. A lot of kids do not have all the books at home that we have at home. A lot of kids cannot walk to the Winters Library. Even though Bellbrook, we're lucky, it's a walk for a lot of us, but some can't go there by themselves. It's too far. And they don't have the right to read, and that's really sad to me. And just to know, DEI includes those on IEPs, 504s, the disabled people, even us women in this room, because it's all about equality. And why is the access of books so important? Well, you have to learn, like I said last time, about other places, cultures, opinions, and sometimes you make connections. You have critical thinking skills. For example, The Outsiders, right? Everyone knows that book by S.E. Hinton. Is a great way of learning how to not do it, basically, right? The dangers of us versus them. And I'm worried about this time, and maybe even this place here, starting to see an us versus them culture right now. And why are we censoring books about gender ideology? As we heard from the students, they talk about this stuff. Guess what? They have phones, they have internet. How many kids have TVs in their room? Are we as parents, are we really that diligent and stand with them, sit with them every time to see what's going on? What are they watching? In books, it's the thing that, you know, it's much less than a TV show or something else you would see online. And wouldn't it be good to let kids experience something different through the safe environment of books so that they always know what's going on and they get their ideas from books and know what not to do? Oftentimes you read about things and you're like, why did that character act that way? I wouldn't do that. And that's how you learn. And as we said, we all have different opinions and ideas. It was said last time by you, what all this means. And of course, it's when something is different, it's uncomfortable, right? Different ideas, different lifestyle, different culture, different religion. It's just like you don't know it, and therefore you're afraid of the unknown. That's what Elsa said in Frozen, right? Don't be afraid of the unknown, because if you go for it, if you face it, then you might actually have a better life, and you're right or wrong. And so I'm thinking, you know, with what the students said also, we need to have access to books, full access to the books. Like what is the red dot on the books in the middle school right now that my son told me about? What are the, you know, the high school, yes, the library is open, but how is it being used? Are teachers afraid nowadays? Are librarians afraid nowadays to actually give recommendations? I have seen it. Classroom libraries have shrunk because of it. And I really think we just need to open this up so that we all have an idea of what's going on. Because what do we want for our kids? We want them to grow up, to go out in the world, and guess what? The world is a lot different than Bellbrook. The world has a lot of people in them where you sometimes don't agree with, where you sometimes have different opinions. But then think about it. The second commandment, love thy neighbor. That's what Jesus said, right? But what if the neighbor is a lesbian or a Muslim? Are you going to skip that house and go to the next neighbor? No, you got to be kind to everyone. And therefore, I would like you to consider this policy so that everyone can have access, learn about the world, and learn about kindness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, up next, I'd like to welcome Elise Thomason. Thank you for being here. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, guys. I'm going to turn on my timer. You mentioned that there was no correspondence. I wrote to you guys earlier. There was a question of teachers. No one local told me anything. They're far too classy. I didn't ask any local teacher. I'm far too classy. But I have a lot of teachers on my caseload, and they have shared just how scared they are. And that's why on my caseload, and that's why the books are disappearing. My teacher this morning wanted me to tell you she's afraid of being sued, and she's just not even going to try. How sad is that teachers don't want to try? So I wanted to give you that insight, and I know Dr. Pryor wrote back, thank you. Oh, that's not the right timer. I brought a prop, because one day I got in the New York Times. That's me. That's my husband. And that is our friend Greg, who is at our house right now, TDY. And I'm supposed to have dinner, but instead I'm here talking about the same thing that we did back then, which is LGBT people are kind of awesome and deserve support. And it's wild because this was 2013. And it got better for a while, and now I'm back. And you know that anti-LGBTQ bigotry is around, because when I went to my Hallmark store, there were 4 LGBTQ plus coping cards. Right? Like, Hallmark knows that it's bad enough that this is here. And then here's the wonderful thing, guys. Hallmark knows that enough people want to help that there's a market for these cards. How cool is that? I love that. So, you know, my friend, I call him Major Fun because he was a major and he threw all the parties. He got that framed for us, but said, you know, it wasn't him. And that's kind of what military do, is, you know, you don't toot your own horn too much. Last time I was here, I mentioned that, okay, I prepared, guys, yes. Last time I was here, I mentioned how it dawned on me that Nancy Drew's best friend, a self-described tomboy who wants to go by the name George, could arguably be trans. And then I noticed that there was some confusion on the board about the link between gender and sexuality. So that's the main thrust I'm going to talk about today. And I think a lot of you know that I read a lot, and I had a lot of fun thinking about just the stuff I've read that link gender and sexuality. My Shakespeare girl. This time I'm mentioning Twelfth Night. So Viola, and I know you're an English teacher, right? So Viola dresses up as a dude. Wait, no, first Viola is played by a boy actor who dresses up as a woman, who dresses up as a dude, and then so we have the gender element, and now we have the sexuality element, because this character is sexually desired not just by Countess Olivia, but by Duke Orsino. So we have that. Garcilaso de la Vega, a poet and playwright who influenced Shakespeare, existed in the country where women, yes, were allowed on stage. So what did Spanish dramaturgists do? They dressed their women up as men to show off their legs. So again, we have a woman dressed up as a man to titillate men. Gender and sexuality linking. Back at Kirtland Air Force Base, moving to today, the military EO office, which is the equivalent of the EEOC office, and the JAG found that discrimination against gay men and lesbian women violated sex and gender non-discrimination. Why? Because if a woman has sex with a woman, she's acting contrary to a held belief of how things should be. So a woman is acting not like a woman, and if you're mean to a woman for not acting like a woman, that is sex discrimination. Now the next one is really grim, and I'm going to give a trigger warning for sexual assault. Trans people experience rape and sexual assault at shocking levels. This time, it's not the genderqueer person who's linking it. These are straight, cis-het people committing a violent sexual act due to a different gender expression. So this is just in our country. This is in our society, and it always has been. I had other things I wanted to say, but I wanted to get to something that makes me kind of nervous, and I'm going to have to be brave. I would like for us all to remember that we were in this boat because the board decided to make things harder. My teachers who don't have a board, who went over and beyond the law, are already scared. I'm going to say some nice things quickly. We need to remember that Mr. Price and Mrs. Dorn are both military veterans who continue to support our country as federal civil servants. Mrs. Anderson is a teacher in a last chance school where students are deeply traumatized, and her pathos and non-judgment are so needed by them. And Dr. Pryor took time away from her family to run the food bank, and if I recall, you said that those kids were your kids, and you used your own money for things like coats. I am missing someone from the board, and there's a reason for that, and there's no time to explain why. But I would like to exige the 4 of you. When evaluating any proposal from Mike Kinsey, please ask yourself, is this for the kids, or is this for Mike Kinsey's political career? And that's scary to say, but I think it's true. And I know that most of you are helpers, and I'd like for you to do that, please. Okay.
Thank you very much for your comments. Up next, we would like to welcome Cornelius Brinegar. Thank you for being here, and you have 5 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, hi there, Cornelius Brinegar, 2221 Ivy Crest Drive. I know it's really easy to come up and criticize people, so I don't want to start that way. I actually wanted to acknowledge a few things that I think the board does really well. I think you've managed money really well. I think you celebrate student success academically, athletically, socially. Good examples of that tonight. And I think the board has become much more transparent with information, posting it online. I really actually appreciate that, as I'm not being sarcastic or anything. I do have some concerns about the policy 5780, specifically about effectively restricting book access at the high school level. To me, this feels more like an issue of what's appropriate publicly versus privately in terms of policies. To me, I'll try to keep this quick. I think it's more appropriate to have as neutral and accepting of public policies as possible. And this policy, as extended into the high school, I feel is not. Why did the board not just follow the law exactly? I think that's a better way to go. Why expand? Why invert the opt-in, opt-out, and apparently target trans representation at that level? LGBTQ people are not illegal. Parents who find this content in books to be immoral can challenge a book and exclude their kids from checking that out. That was already in place. I'm okay with that. There is no porn in the library. I feel like the way the policy has been discussed, maybe some more online than in person here, is a bit misleading. As far as books go, any parent in the community could create a list of books that they have concerns about that type of issue and share it with others in order to create a coalition of people who would prefer their kids not see certain things. Okay? I feel like this policy 5780 leans into a divisive and discriminatory posture for the school system. I don't think that's appropriate at all. We need to be supporting our students the way they support each other. We saw with the mentoring and peer tutoring and all that stuff. It's fantastic stuff. I think we need to be on that side. And I believe that the board should be more concerned with school funding and systemic dismantling of public education rather than expanding into these areas, and just follow the law. So, all right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming. Up next on my list is Meredith Brinegar. Thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes.
All right, thank you. My name is Meredith Brinegar, and I live in Bellbrook. And clearly books mean a lot to me, and that was my husband who just spoke. Our daughter's named after a title character in a book, so it's something that matters a great deal. I spoke at the last board meeting about policy 5780, and I'm very appreciative that this high school library opened this week, even though the review of books is not complete. I mean, thank you. My daughter brought home a book today. It is not one I would have picked. She likes these dark crime mystery books, but that's okay. I want to encourage her to read what works for her. However, my concerns remain about this policy, and I'm going to speak about 4 of them. 1, I think policy 5780 is unethical in relation to the treatment of trans and non-binary individuals. It goes against my ethical code as a psychologist, as well as my personal morals to treat every human with dignity and respect. I suspect it also violates the ethical code of many educators in this district, but I won't presume to speak on their behalf. I mean, how do you think it feels to gender nonconforming students to have books about themselves be removed from the middle school library and to require permission to look at or read them in the high school? I mean, do you know these students? I know these students. Some of these I've known since kindergarten. I've known for 10 years. And so I really feel for them. I also worry, are we whitewashing history by forbidding nonfiction historical accounts of transgender individuals? Now, several aspects of policy 5780, second point, may be illegal. Similar cases have been found to violate the First and 14th Amendments by the U.S. Supreme Court and district courts, which our previous speaker has mentioned. My third concern is the lack of respect for educators. Our teachers have made this district great long before this current board was seated. Let's respect our educators to teach books and materials that have educational value. I mean, some of the materials that have come under fire were previously approved by this board. All teachers, but I could argue especially ELA and social studies teachers, go to school to learn how to facilitate safe discussions where differing viewpoints are not only permissible, but encouraged. And it has always been true that parents and students can opt out of any assignment they deem inappropriate. My fourth concern is practicality. I think the practicality of implementing this policy places an undue burden on teachers and librarians. 5780 is far from a clear-cut black and white policy. I have so many questions. What about novels where the main characters have sex, but it's off screen, or in this case, off the page? What are the consequences if an educator violates this policy? How many alternative assignments will teachers have to create for parents who didn't opt in or out, but are consequently treated as opting out? The other practical concern is related to school funding. Bellbrook will be asking for a new levy in a couple years. Instigating division with extreme policies won't win you any votes. People who lean left tend to more reliably vote for public interest levies. But these are the very people you are alienating. Perhaps this is playing into the state's playbook to engage in culture wars in an attempt to defund public education. The state seems to have a narrative. Public schools threaten your values, you have rights as a parent, and here's a voucher to go to a religious school. In fact, Ohio gives Bellbrook schools double the rate to leave than if they stay, $4,500 versus $2,200. So, in light of this, I encourage you to revise this policy to the exact verbiage of HB 8. That's what neighboring schools like Centerville, Beaver Creek, and Waynesville have done. I looked it up. They're on, you can see their policies that are done by Neola on their board docs. And with no mention of libraries in this policy, the K-3 designation won't matter that it cuts across two buildings, because it was really intended about classroom instruction. So any remaining dissatisfaction citizens may have with the policy can be aimed toward the state and not this board. The list of books that librarians have identified up until this point could even be given to parents upon request to help them decide what to opt out of. Finally, it's wearying to repeatedly speak up for the disenfranchised in Bellbrook. You start to feel pessimistic. But a friend recently reminded me that it took women 72 years of activism to get the right to vote. So I'll keep speaking up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last on my list for tonight is Mike Bruggeman. Welcome, sir. Thanks for being here. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mike Bruggeman, proud Bellbrook resident. I have two boys in the district, one in middle school and one in high school. Last time I was here, I've tried to talk at a lot of school board meetings over the years, but last time I was here, I asked with the new administration, both at the state and the federal level, that we really try to moderate any impacts of policies, procedures, laws that come down and be the moderating force. So instead of, if the waves are really big, deploy the stabilizers like on a cruise ship and make it a nice, comfortable ride for everybody. And I think maybe that we failed a little bit in this case, being that moderating force. I wasn't at the last school board meeting, but I did read on the news. I don't do social media much, but I did read on the news all the articles about this issue that's already been discussed a lot tonight. Again, I would just encourage the school board to do so, to be the moderating force, to not, if the law says everybody has to wear black, the next day we shouldn't all be wearing head-to-toe black outfits. It should be, I can pick something black on your shirt tag, you're cool. It can be that moderating force. But ultimately, I'd like to ask maybe, I've told a couple stories over the last couple years about the curriculum reviews and so forth. I guess I asked kind of to what end? What do we see a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? What is our plan for the increasing parent visibility into the curriculum, guidance and control over individual students? What happens in the classrooms? Where do we see that going? What is our ideal end state? I've told the story before at school board meetings. I'll say it again. Maybe the first or second or third time you've heard it. But one Friday night, my older son, who was in middle school at the time, 8th grade, I think, came home. We went to a birthday party. There was birthday cake. He said, "I cannot have a piece of birthday cake." I said, "Why is that?" "Well, my health teacher says that to be healthy, you can only have one dessert a day. So I already had one for lunch. I cannot have any birthday cake tonight." I said, "We can make an exception for your cousin. You're allowed to have a piece of cake." "Well, I'm not sure." So it instigated a conversation there. You know, it's a good parent-child conversation. Should I come back to the school board or come back to the teacher or the administrators, the superintendent, and say, "I vehemently disagree with this curriculum. We need to take this curriculum out of the classroom because my kid thinks you can only have one dessert a day. What about special occasions?" It's a good example of, of course I didn't do any of that. But is our ideal state 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years from now that kind of thing happens, that we're micromanaging the curriculum to individual parents' tastes time and again? It's unworkable, of course. So ultimately, I know a couple of other folks have said, but what makes a school district great is the teachers, of course, and the parents, and motivated students. The parents should be involved, but I think creating an active learning environment for the teachers where they're not scared, where they're not worried about what they're going to say, I think is the most critical part to having successful students and great outcomes for our kids. One more quick story. I hope I'm not outing the teacher. He or she told me this one time, but they said it's applicable just here the last couple days. They said, it was a high school teacher. He or she said, "In my class, I had 2 students arguing, and one student said, 'All school shooters are gay. That's what my church has told me. If we can figure out who the gay students are, we can watch out for who could be a school shooter.' The other student said, 'That's not true. That's not true at all. You can look it up. That's not true.' They came to me, the teacher, they came to me and said, 'What's the truth, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so?' How do you answer that question? It's a very difficult position to be put in. I don't know how they answered. They didn't explicitly state it, but they said a lot of those kind of conversations happen in class. And so we just need to make sure that we have an open intellectual environment where the teachers aren't afraid, where the teachers can address those issues. I don't know what the right answer is in that case, but I'm sure our teachers encounter those kind of opportunities every day. So I think that's it. Again, just please, I would like to have a moderating force throughout our policies. We don't need to be the extremist or the leading edge policymakers. We don't have to follow the crowd, but I think it's concerning to majority of the parents. All that being said, I did want to thank the phone policy, and especially thank Ms. Scoey. We have a student who's just starting his CCP classes, and that's been an incredible adventure here the last couple of weeks, but she's really helped us usher our student through that a lot, so much appreciation to her.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us to the end of our list, so I'm now going to close public comment time. And I need to get organized again. Hang on. I think I know what's next, but there we go. We would now like to welcome Mark Carrera, who's the president of our teachers union.
Thank you. Before I begin the prepared comments that I put together, I think I'm going to relay a story that happened this week in the class. So at the beginning of the school year, because of the way that Chromebooks were distributed and the fact that I had a first period AP government for the first time, I gave out like a little survey, and I told them they can ask any question. And the question that stuck out to me the most was a student asked me, "Why do you love Bellbrook so much?" And I thought, what have I done to make people feel that I love Bellbrook? I mean, I owe Bellbrook a lot. So much gratitude to Bellbrook, a debt I can never repay. And I think that that's where a lot of this advocacy comes from, is that I care about Bellbrook, I care about the students, I care about the staff, I care about the district. and all of us do. So, if I can prepare my statements, first off, I'd like to say that AI played no role in the composition of this statement here. All right. So, the Sugar Creek Education Association, the SEA, formally requests that the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek School Board consider revisiting Board Policy 5780, which guides our implementation of Ohio Revised Code, ORC, Section 3313.473, more commonly known as Parents' Bill of Rights. We encourage this action to ensure student access to the district-approved curriculum for English and Language Arts at Bellbrook High School, to provide clarification of forms and procedures so that staff can make informed decisions and families can do the same for their children, to make all staff and students feel valued and accepted, and lastly, to build community support for our outstanding, highly rated school district where wonderful things happen each and every day. It is the recommendation of the SEA that aligning district policy closer with the ORC is the best course of action to accomplish these goals and to help improve the image of Bellbrook-Sugarcreek schools. The SEA believes that the implementation of Board Policy 5780 has contributed to the development of many unintended consequences, including, but not limited to, the delayed opening of the high school library, as well as the removal of libraries from the classrooms of high school teachers. One consequence that has been brought to the attention of the administration is the impact on the district-approved curriculum for the required English and Language Arts ELA courses. Specifically, the requirement that students opt into materials that have already undergone an extensive vetting process by teachers, administrators, and Board of Education members prior to adoption. As educators, the SEA recognizes the vast difference between requiring families to opt in and allowing families to opt out. The former limits access to families that respond, while the latter has always been an option for families who find certain content to be objectionable. Requiring students to opt in has increased the stress upon our ELA staff as significant numbers of families have failed to respond, thus opting out, and tasking teachers with developing alternative assignments for those students, which may not be feasible given the number of families who have simply not replied to the request. Aligning board policy with state law will address this issue because the high school will be allowed to revert to the previous policy, which was very effective and preferred by both families and staff members. The SEA has received correspondence from numerous staff members ranging from school librarians in multiple buildings to teachers of subjects ranging from science to social studies. A common theme is that the policy is overly broad and is subject to individual interpretation. It could be reflective of every individual's personal bias, and little has been done to reassure those who are concerned about their due process rights in the case of an inadvertent violation. It is an arduous task for the librarians to vet the books in their collections, as some numbers in the thousands, for words and phrases that could violate this broad policy. Classroom teachers of various subjects are concerned with about the wording found in their district-adopted textbooks, even if it is located in sections that are not covered within the course. Some of the less informed parents are unsure of why the opt-out is necessary, because there are laws on the books that criminalize the distribution of pornography to minors, while others are fearful that inappropriate materials are the norm in the district, which has never been the case. Clarifying all procedures must be a part of this process, and aligning the policy to current law will help administration accomplish this task. There have been instances where parents who have made the decision to opt out have insisted that their children are not made to feel uncomfortable or have attention drawn to them due to being assigned an alternative assignment. This policy has the potential to eliminate the connections that students gain through novels read as a class, as it will reduce the ability for teachers to facilitate classroom discussions, which by extension help to address content standards. And it could contribute to making students feel uncomfortable and ostracized, even if their family has opted out by simply failing to respond. This is unrelated to those students who may feel directly targeted by this policy due to their and their family's life choices, but that also deserves consideration. It is a common theme in America today, and even frequently in the past, to blame educators for societal issues without actual evidence. And although the board praises the overall efforts of our staff, there have been many instances where staff can draw the conclusion that there is an undeserved level of distrust and disrespect from all levels of government that many of us have felt since the events of 2020. The board should demonstrate that they trust and respect the professionalism, expertise, and experience of our district administration and staff members by revisiting this policy to reflect the intention of the ORC. Bellbrook-Sugarcreek School District has consistently been one of the highest rated school districts in the Miami Valley, as well as the state of Ohio, over the course of the 21st century thus far. This accomplishment has included recognition from national publications such as U.S. News and World Report, which focuses primarily upon the success of Bellbrook High School, but is actually demonstrative of the excellent education that students have received in this district over the course of their time here. The accolades and praise that are the focus of ceremonies and board meetings are too expansive to list here, but it should go without saying that the accomplishments behind them should be the focus of the board when considering policy changes that have the potential to negatively impact the quality of education that is provided in this district, as well as our reputation as a five-star district. The decision to enact this policy has been popular with some, but has given our district a self-inflicted black eye. The board has the opportunity to triage this issue by aligning it more closely with the language of the Parents' Bill of Rights. Finally, the Sugar Creek Education Association recognizes and respects the board's ability to create policy, approve curriculum, and advise Dr. Kozad. But we also believe the board has a responsibility to represent all residents of Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Township, including those who disagree with this policy, to do more to make staff members believe the sincerity of their praise, as well as to cultivate an image that does not portray our outstanding district in a negative light. Although the negative media coverage may have been inadvertent, we believe that the board should revisit this policy as a goodwill gesture to the SEA and all staff members by reverting to the guidance provided by the state of Ohio. And now for a moment, I would like to let Mrs. Julie Giles, high school English teacher and member of the executive committee, speak and attest to some of the impact on ELA.
Good evening. My name is Julie Giles, and I am one of the 10th group. Why am I getting emotional? Do that to me. I'm one of the 10th grade English teachers at the high school. I am a 20-year veteran of the district, and I feel compelled to share how Board Policy 5780 is disrupting our classrooms and diminishing the educational experience for our students. Two of the issues that Mr. Carrera highlighted are affecting us in the ELA department in an extremely negative way. The opt-in policy versus the previous opt-out option, and the fact that district-approved curriculum was not exempted from this policy. One of the anchor texts of our opening unit, ironically enough called Conflict and Connection, is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This novel was a recommended long read as a part of an ELA curriculum that went through a formal adoption process and was reviewed and vetted by parents, teachers, administrators, and this board. Because of the new opt-in requirement created by 5780, nearly 1/3 of our students will be excluded from participating in reading this work, not because families have objected to its content, which has been called into question, but because permission forms on Parent Square haven't been returned, despite multiple reminders sent. The opt-in verbiage of 5780 requires that this lack of response be treated as opting out of reading the book, which denies students access to a board-approved curriculum. This has created an extremely challenging situation for us teachers. We've fielded dozens of negative comments questioning our professionalism and our judgment, some even suggesting that we just use ChatGPT to choose a different book, disregarding our experience and our expertise. Of the novels recommended by the textbook, we chose the one we thought was the most engaging and relevant to appeal to the wide range of students we serve. This novel was taught without incident last year, by the way, with several students commenting on how nice it was to have something they could relate to as the protagonist goes through the challenges of being a teenager trying to gain autonomy. The hardest part is that the community we build around a shared novel is gone. A class text isn't just about reading, it's about discussion, connection, and learning together. When so many students are left out, they lose that sense of belonging. The result is 2 classrooms within one, students who can read the text as intended, and students isolated with an alternative assignment working independently. Teachers spending time creating entirely separate materials for a second novel is not only time-consuming, it's pedagogically unsound. In addition to fracturing in the community that a class novel creates, it drains instructional energy, divides attention, and diminishes the learning for everyone. I also feel it is necessary to clarify a point of concern that has been raised publicly over the 2 passages in question in the Poet-X. It is circulated as evidence of inappropriate content per the new policy. In our classrooms, those passages are neither assigned to be read nor discussed. Teachers make intentional decisions about how to teach text responsibly, and we do not use those selections as part of instruction. To be clear, however, the novel should never have even been put through the permission process as a part of a district board approved curriculum. Parents' rights do not need protection. Those rights were always protected under the opt-out system that has always been in place. The real issue is whether students should lose access to board-approved curriculum just because a form wasn't returned, and whether curriculum vetted and approved by the board in district should even be lumped into a debate over questionable material. I respectfully request that the board take action to revisit the current policy 5780 as a whole and return to an opt-out system that has always existed, in addition to explicitly exempting district-approved curriculum from this policy. Please show a partnership with your teachers and trust the professional judgment of the educators you've hired. Parental choice will still be respected while ensuring all students have access to the curriculum that has been reviewed, adopted, and approved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Could I ask Mrs. Giles a question? Could I ask Mrs. Giles a question real quick? I can certainly understand if parents don't fill out that form that would be a problem. Can you tell me, how many parents actively selected no to the Poet-X book this year?
Actively selected no.
Yeah, as in they opted their child out of that book, and
9 out of 90.
So 9.
5 out of 63. I have had 4 out of 40.
Okay, so
We have nearly 50 who have not responded.
Okay, so 20-ish kids purposely, their parents said, no, I don't want them to read this, and then 30 haven't responded.
A third of the kids.
Okay. And that doesn't include the ones who purposely wanted their kid off.
No, that's a separate number.
Okay. What about last year? You did the same book last year. How many students were opted out? One. Now, were parents informed, hey, we're reading this Poet-X, it has some sexually explicit stuff?
They knew to review the Poet-X.
Okay, but they weren't told.
We did not have to tell
Okay,
them.
right, okay.
And again, don't read that. It is not assigned to be read.
They're not assigned to read the whole book?
Not those excerpts. Chunk it.
Okay. Okay.
And we deliberately avoid those numbers.
So, even if you just had one student that wanted an alternative assignment, that would still have to be created, is that right?
And that is what happened. And that is what happened.
So the assignment is being created to facilitate whatever students' parents opt out, even last year, correct?
Right. Well, it's a little more than that now, since we have so many each class period.
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
We are creating materials. We used kind of a makeshift quick fix last year when the one student didn't opt in. This year, we're going to spend time aligning it to what we're doing with the Poet-X so that they have a comparable experience.
So last year it wasn't a comparable experience?
No.
I mean, okay.
For one student, no. And it happened very much after the book had been started. Is that accurate?
That student was given similar assignments as best I could that aligned with exactly the same skills that we were working on with the Poet-X.
And if I could, it fractures the way a classroom works. Like you're taking chunks of people out of one person, you can deal.
Even if you're making an assignment, but if you're taking out chunks out of, one class has 50%, one class has 3 kids, I mean, that is a task that.
I know.
Well,
I can very
wanna
much
respect your
appreciate.
opinion about that, but I'm going to say that, realistically, that is a task that is very difficult.
And I can
for any
very much
teacher,
appreciate that. I totally understand how time-consuming that is to provide that experience. I understand that, for sure.
No, you're fine.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so it seemed like a lot of questions about implementation. And I could think, probably could speak for the board, we probably also have some questions and some thoughts on implementation. And obviously, this is always super tricky because we really should respect a healthy separation of roles. As some of you know, some of you might not. A school board creates, deliberates policy, and then implementation is left to superintendent and principals. Just curious, have you reached out to the superintendent and Mr. Hand to discuss some of the implementation decisions
Right, I'm
are
not only
forthcoming?
Correct. I would not just come to the board about that.
I'm
But
sorry?
I would
I'm sorry, I
argue that,
can't
and I
hear.
understand what you're saying. So I would say that I have talked to Dr. Cozad, I have talked to Mr. Hand. We've discussed some of the issues that come up. But I would say that you're right that you're not implementing the policy, but you're the one that made the opt-in. And that, like, there's no other way to implement it. So, like, that's your baby.
Sure. And the point of my question was just to say that, like, obviously, we want to be very careful not to overstep, not to micromanage, but we would be very open if it would be helpful. I remember that we had very good working sessions in the spring that I thought.
When we mentioned it should be opt-out instead of opt-in.
We knew that this would be this
Yeah.
issue. Like, I mean, no offense, but we're educators, and we said that this would be an issue. And
Here we are.
And here we are. It's the issue that we thought would happen. And we're not trying to make it the issue. It's just the issue. So we're not creating this problem.
But again, a book that's recommended by our curriculum shouldn't even be on the table in terms of the opt-in component, in my opinion, and my colleagues' opinions as well.
And going back to including the high school. I mean, and I don't mean to like leave anybody else out, and I don't represent just the high school. We do not represent just the high school, but including the high school, like I just believe that was a misstep. But that's just my perception.
Yep. Well, obviously, policy is always a living thing. I know there was a lot of discussion about opt-in and opt-out. I know that there was hours and hours of discussion about that. And, here in a second, maybe now's a good time as any, I have a few comments, but obviously we're willing to always listen to suggestions and suggested amendments, and only if appropriate, if somebody would like board representation now that we're in that implementation phase, just please know we're always there to listen and share ideas. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Kinsey, now that you mentioned that, Dr. Cozad, if there would be a time where I could go down and meet with the teacher, the ELA teachers specifically, just to learn from them their struggles, if they would be open to that, I would be willing to do that at any time.
I emailed the ELA teachers just this afternoon along with Mr. Carrera and then also Mrs. Brenner for Mr. Hand, Scan, and myself to meet with them along with a board member or two. So kind of that's already in motion, and so would probably just be determined of who from the board, can't be more than two, that could meet with them. So I'll let that up to the board of who wants to meet with them. It could be one session, multiple sessions, and so forth, but of trying to, as kind of the implementation is rolling here of real time of addressing the concerns and thoughts and so forth. So,
well,
if the board wants to think about that, again, didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I mean, I think that would be helpful, and I can envision a path forward where whether we're calling something opt-in or opt-out, I think the intent of the board is some positive acknowledgement that a parent knows what is there, and is what we're going for. But I think there are probably points in between how you all are currently having to go about the opt-in and what our true intent is, where we can meet in the middle in a way that is less administratively burdensome and probably more likely to receive that positive acknowledgement from parents. And I think that's think we all owe it to ourselves to try to work toward that. Understanding that's our intent, that we want parents to know what's happening, but also to do this in a way that maybe isn't as painful as it currently is for all of you. So,
Yep.
I welcome that.
If I could build on that, just a couple comments I had. So it's very interesting to be able to look at one thing through different lenses. So it's interesting and very helpful to hear that. So I'll just tack on to what Mrs. Dorn said. Obviously, maybe there's some things that we can do, keeping the intent of ensuring that parents have the information that everybody thinks that they should have, however, making it less burdensome. But having conversations, I had a really great conversation with Mr. Hand, Dr. Kozad just a few days ago, and a couple of questions kind of bubbled up from that. You heard me allude to it a second ago, is I want to be very careful. I really do want to be very careful that a Board of Education should not, at this table, live on YouTube, underneath hot lights, be trying to craft very low-level implementation details. That we do want to be very careful with that. But with that being said, Mr. Hand asked some questions from the high school. I have two in front of me that I'd kind of like to comment on. The first one, and I think that this is, can be a very, very good question, is that first question is, well, just what happens if a teacher misses something? He mentioned that there was some fear out there, and let me tell you, that was certainly never the intent. Absolutely hate to hear that. So as implementation is crafted, is communicated, I hope that it can be in such a way that can reinforce, or I can be here to reaffirm, at least, if it helps, that the Board of Education has known for several weeks now, whenever the decision was made during the summer for what the language of final forms was going to be, that it included phrases of books that are known to contain sexuality content. And we know that this process is underway but not complete. The board understood that this would be a process that things, so long as it's a good faith effort as this process is undertaken, certainly if something's missed, nobody wants any gotcha moments. Nobody wants anything like that. So as implementation proceeds, if you could just make sure that folks know that the board understands that, that's what the board wants also. The second question that came up, and this is one that's been talked about a lot. It's really interesting when there can be a lot of rumors and half-truths and untruths being floating around there. Things that we've heard in school board meetings, certainly on the news that has published untruths. I know our communications department reached out to try to correct some of them. Some of them were not corrected. But for example, the middle school library was never closed.
That's a truth or an untruth?
Sorry?
Can you be clear, is that a truth or an untruth?
The middle school library was never closed, period. So when folks or the news reported that the middle school library was closed, as reported in the news, that was not true. Hearing things like Policy 5780 addresses books if a character has two mommies. I'm sorry, that is not true. That is not in the policy. Or if somebody is lesbian or a Muslim, that is not affected by 5780. So it leads right into my question that came, what does inherently private sexual acts or sexual intercourse in any form mean? I'm not going to go through all the history. There's hours and hours of history out there on YouTube that we've done in previous meetings, but that is the language that the board decided with a lot of input to try to put some bounds on that very vague phrase, sexual concepts, inherently private sexual acts or sexual intercourse in any form. Again, for the third time, is that we did not want to dive into implementation, but it is important that we tried to give some context. We wanted to try to give some guidance. So we talked a lot about, colloquially, to help implementation when it was time, be thinking R-rated and X-rated sex scenes. That's what we're talking about. We talked a lot about the difference between something that's R-rated, something that's PG-13 rated. I know as mentioned from the table that if you could do this act on a public park bench and not get a visit from a law enforcement officer, you're probably okay. If you would get a visit from a law enforcement officer, that's probably something that parents need to know about. Because whenever this policy is being talked about, or if there would be news headlines about it, what it really should be, the most important part of this policy, which comes from state law, is that Bellbrook schools will not keep information from parents. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in 5780. It touches on different areas. I know we've spent a lot of time here recently with some folks focusing on books or libraries, but that's what this policy is about, is that Bellbrook schools will not keep information from parents. So I have a few examples here, and I am, I guess, officially speaking for the board, but please, if you hear anything individually that I say that you individually disagree with, please stop me, and we can make some corrections. But, you know, what does inherently private sexual acts or sexual intercourse in any form mean? It does not mean, because we're talking about sexual acts, it does not mean kissing, holding hands, stuff you can do on a park bench. It does not mean metaphors. It doesn't mean poetry that references. Somebody came up to me and said, what about a poem where a hummingbird is dipping its beak into the dew of the lily pads? Like, no, that is not the intent of the policy. But people are asking. So it's not metaphors, it's not poetry, it's not passing references like a chapter that just says, hey, did you hear so-and-so and so-and-so had sex after the football game? Not talking about that. So these are things that implementation can clarify, can really put into writing. And of course, I mean, any other text that does not have an R-rated sex act in it, a scene, a play-by-play, a detailed description,
Yes, thank you.
any book that does not have an inherently private sex scene is not affected in any way with policy 5780.
And just as a
So, go ahead, Mrs. Dorn.
as a
I'm so sorry. Public comment time is closed.
just where
This leads to people thinking that people are not, you don't look at people anymore. Where's the kindness?
I apologize if I mischaracterized you. I didn't mean to. I do. Mrs. Dorn.
what I was going to say is, just very briefly, as a reminder, nothing is banned by this. It's merely just saying that's a trigger that we're going to inform parents that this is happening or that this is being provided. It's not saying that that there is no value to this kind of content, that these books have no worth, or that they should not be taught or provided. It's that that's a trigger that we want parents to know.
Yeah, it's not passing, it's not saying it's good or it's bad, it's just saying that if it is something that would be an R-rated sex scene, that's probably something that a parent might want to know about. So those are some things that it was our intent to say that it should not address. Hopefully that's helpful for implementation. So now maybe it would be appropriate to talk about some examples. One of the speakers I appreciate actually said that they hadn't heard any examples. And again, because I think we wanted to be respectful and not step in unless we're asked, which I appreciate the question. I also want to say that I'm going to be saying a few things here about some books. So if there's any minors that are in the room, if you want to step out, I totally understand. Or if there's anybody watching online and you're with children, if you want to pause, I totally understand. But if it helps for implementation about what is and what is not I think it's really important for people to know, because parents don't know. Parents don't know. I'll give a second if anybody wants to leave.
But parents don't, and they have a right to know. They have a right to know. Context doesn't. Parents have a right to know.
So I don't think it's unreasonable to give a parent a heads up if there is truly a detailed, graphic, R-rated sex scene in a material. People keep asking questions. We all the time hear questions. Is this kissing? Is this holding hands? Is this some cuddling? No, it's not. We want to make certain where the line is as implementation comes out. This book right here, I'll give you the Sun.
That's at the middle school right now.
It describes a girl, and she describes her boyfriend's fingers inside of her. It goes on as she's pressed into the sand, and they have an encounter at the beach. This is really uncomfortable, by the way, but it's important so we can say what does this address and what does not. This book, Will Grayson, it describes masturbation. It describes quite crudely, if I could add, the differences, the details between vaginal and anal sex. The Perks of Being a Wallflower has a pretty lengthy description of oral sex where a boy pushes a girl's head down onto him while she's crying. This book, Identical, which is a book of poems, has 2 poems in it. The one, it talks about how a father rapes his daughter, and it uses the words in the poem brutal and bloody as she shrieks. So that's incredibly uncomfortable, but I hope that it can help draw a line, and I hope that people can know that we're not talking about kissing. We're not talking about holding hands. We're talking about a detailed, graphic, scene-by-scene play of a very adult nature. And I'm sorry, I don't think it's unreasonable to give a parent a heads up about that before their child gets it. Now, I do think a lot of work can be done on implementation. Nothing is going to be perfect right at first. It's a process. I look forward to that process happening, and of course we stand ready. If there's anything that we can do that would be helpful, just please let us know. So those are just a few clarifications I wanted to make. And anybody have anything that they want to add, or did I say anything that you disagree with?
Just to add that the board did not receive copies of the anchor text as part of our curriculum review. It was listed just as a little blurb. These are the anchor text. I mean, we would have had to dig pages and pages to even find the words, but the novels were not actually presented to the board that I saw. I don't know if any of you saw them, but
No.
I never received those novels.
Well,
and there are 3 novels that can be that could be choices.
And again, I haven't dug into that text to know whether or not I personally take exception to it, but I do trust teachers in that there is educational value to those things. I also trust parents to know if their child is, I guess, there's a few reasons where I could see that a parent might want to opt out of any particular book. I think folks are presented in the social media space and whatnot as if you're too much of a prude, that your kids are already talking about this, you can't shield them from this. There are families who have very strict values and just don't want their kids reading this. There are kids who, or there are families like mine who have a kid who is very immature developmentally and is not ready for this. There may also be families who have kids who have experienced trauma, and coming across a passage like that in a book could be very troubling. And so just letting a parent know this is what your child wants to access, or this is what your child is about to be provided, heads up for you to have a conversation, to say, yep, cool, good to go, have a conversation with your child so you can actively engage during that time, or to say, not for my kid or not right now. I don't find that to be unreasonable when we're talking about topics of this nature. And I'm especially protective for kids who, reading about a topic, some of the topics that Mr. Kinsey just shared, might be a very, bring up some very personal issues. And that's what we're trying to get at. If the implementation of this, if there are things that we can do to make it easier to meet that end or to meet that goal, but to let parents know, but also allow teachers to do what they need to do to educate our kids in a way that is as seamless as possible. Let's have those conversations. I think our administrators are at the ready and are in the process of like working through things that can make this path easier. But I guess that's where I'll leave it.
I think it's very interesting for the Poet X book that this year, you know, according to the numbers they just gave me, it seems like about 18 parents specifically said, no, I don't want my child to read that. And last year it was 1, but last year parents weren't told about it. So I really think we should tell parents, and I just want parents to make their own decisions for their kid. I don't want to take any books away from any kid whose parents want them to have it, but everyone is different. We are trying to accommodate our devout Christian and Muslim families. I know some families who won't let their kids in the library at all because they're worried, and we're trying to make it easier for them to, you know, trust us and know that, hey, you know, it's not perfect. This is a work in progress, but we're trying to, you know, help you let your kid read a lot, but keep to your, you know, family values and religion. And so letting parents know what they're reading is our goal. And letting parents make their own decisions for their own kids. That's all we're trying to do. I'm not saying, like, that might be a great book. My daughter might love it. I'm not making a decision about that book at all. I want parents to make their own decision for their own kids. And that's our goal. So we have to figure out a way to do that without, you know, killing our teachers.
All right, so I think I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We have to move on with our meeting. I'm so sorry. I want to be rude. If you want to follow up afterwards, we'd be happy to talk with you. But public comment time is closed. I'm sorry. Can we move into the superintendent's report?
I have one more question, but I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Just trying to kind of problem solve here on the fly. Is if you read something, like if a message is opened in Parent Square, does that show that it has been read? Is there a way to track that?
I don't know the answer to that. Mr. Conti, do you know the answer to that? It's a brand new program. I'm not sure.
I'm sure we can.
Is there
Sorry.
a read receipt of sorts?
Is there a read receipt type thing in Parent Square?
For specific messages?
Like if it comes directly from your child's teacher, is that able to be tracked? Like it was received?
There's a message, a post, and an alert. We haven't done alerts yet. But for a message, which is more like DM, direct message, yes.
Okay.
For a post, you would have to look individually, I believe, at that specific, like, whether or not there's kind of that, like, email marketing. I know if it got to their inbox, but I'm not 100% sure if they read it. I'll have to investigate that further.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Kind of know where you're going at
Okay.
with that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like if
Hear
it's
what you're
been
saying.
opened and read,
Correct.
maybe we could, you know,
Right.
give on that, you know, if that would help.
Right.
Okay,
Kind of the
I'm
read,
glad.
yeah,
Okay.
kind of the read receipt. I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. Yeah,
Okay.
I got a note to myself.
I just didn't know if that was possible.
Yeah, we'll have to check into it because again,
Okay.
it's new program, so we're trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
sorry,
the
just trying to
nuances.
problem solve right,
Yep.
you know, right away. Okay,
Thank you.
All right, are we ready for the superintendent's report?
yes.
Okay. All right, so superintendent's report is a consent agenda A, B, and C, as it traditionally, or it's been in the past years. Certificated license, employment, resignation, leave of absence, supplemented duty, and pupil activity is A. And then B is the support staff employment, resignation, leave of absence. And then C is substitute employment. So that, this is D, approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Mrs. Dorn, then Mrs. Anderson.
Again, just some supplementals here, some hiring of some teachers, resignations, and then continue to try to build up that substitute teacher list and substitute staff list.
All right, please call the roll.
Dr. Pryor,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dawn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey.
Yes.
4 yeses.
All right, so donation, recommend acceptance of the following donation with gratitude, Bellbrook Lions Club for construction of shelter at the Bell Creek Intermediate Playground.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Dorn, then Dr. Pryor.
Again, so the Lions Club had some money left over from the Eagle Land 2 project, so it was on their agenda to do some type of shelter, and so they put that money towards a shelter where during the school day, staff could be under there, but also in the evening or on the weekends that parents could be under there. I think there's maybe also some benches that are going to be added underneath there also. So it looks really nice, went up really quickly the other day, so again, appreciate all that they've done for the school district.
Please call the roll on accepting with much gratitude.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dawn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Dr. Pryor.
Yes.
4 yeses.
Really appreciate the Lions Club.
They're awesome.
All right, at this time, I would like to make a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment and compensation of a public employee per RC 121.22G1 and for the purpose of the sale of property at competitive bidding or the sale or other disposition of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property in accordance with section 505.10 of the revised code per RC 121.22G2. Does my motion have a second?
Second.
I heard Mrs. Anderson. We do not anticipate taking any action whatsoever outside of executive session. Of course, you're welcome to stay around if you like. Yes, sir?
Before you take that vote, sir, I can't answer that question. Yes, we can individually see if people have opened the message.
Okay, that's maybe something to talk about.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Yep.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
All right, please call the roll on moving to executive session.
Mrs. Dawn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Dr. Pryor,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
4 yeses.
All right, we are in executive session at 9:02 p.m. Thank you, everybody. We are out of executive session at 10:05 PM. I am making a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
I heard Mrs. Anderson first. All right. I got anything to say? I will call the roll. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorn?
Yes.
Dr. Pryor?
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey is a yes. We are adjourned at 10:06 PM. Thank you, everyone.